Hello there, welcome back to Barcelona for the testing notebook. Day 3 of the last test, the second test. And I've come down to my favourite spot, one of my favourite spots around this Circuit de Catalunya. It's turn 3, the exit of turn 3, the outside of turn 3. The inside is also quite a good place to watch. So we're going to do a sort of hybrid chat with my colleague Craig Slater, who's also here enjoying the cars, while Simon Foggin, our expert cameraman, superstar, is going to be following the cars and judging how they all take the little flick-flack of 2. That's what they call it, the flick-flack, and into the long sweeping turn 3. The scene, of course, Craig, of Fernando Alonso's accident last year, but we'll get onto that in a minute. Let's do where we left off with you yesterday, which was the drivers having their meeting. Oh, who's this? The McLaren? It is. Let's hear this noise.
That's better than it was yesterday, I think. Like
better off throttle.
Yeah, sounded like a pneumatic drill at times yesterday.
Well, that's the characteristic of the Honda, isn't it? Oh, here's a Ferrari on a quick lap. This is going to be good. Let's have a little listen to this. Very crisp, lovely line from Kimi Raikkonen. First flying lap on a super soft tyre. Beautiful, beautiful to see. This is Hulkenberg on a super soft tyre, but that is clearly not a flying lap. But all right, enough trackside analysis for the moment. Let's talk about that meeting. It was. Well, what did you think? You said on air at the time that you thought it was what, outrageous? It was unprofessional, something, to see all the drivers airing their laundry in public like that. What did you say?
Right, the process seemed to me perhaps unprofessional. That there'd been so many changes of policy as the Williams goes by. The fact that they first had this proposal in place, reckoned it wasn't possible to implement because of the software, then came back with the team managers, we think, and have this compromise solution where part of qualifying will have the knockout 90-second elimination process, and Q3 left as it is, and then to bring the drivers in at the 11th hour to gauge their views. Surely if anyone needs to veto it, perhaps on practicality grounds, their voices must be heard fairly prominently.
Well, it's a sign, isn't it, that actually the powers that be, the team managers, the team bosses, oh, here's the Ferrari again, and Bernie Eccleston, Kimi very much on a slowdown lap, don't really give a monkey's what the drivers think. The drivers are almost now, robots who just drive the cars to an allotted lap time determined by engineers. Yeah.
Part of the debate over this change of qualifying, it isn't about qualifying being bad and needing to be fixed. It's all about changing the grid positions on Sunday, isn't it? This makes it a little bit more of a lottery. It's still a test of speed, clearly, and nerve, because there are fewer opportunities, or you're more of a tightrope in terms of getting it right when you're on track. But the hope, I suppose, is from Eccleston and co. is that some of the top cars will get knocked out and will find themselves on row 3 or 4 potentially. Yeah.
Okay, the drivers, of course, don't think they're robots. They think they're superstars and really the main draw of the sport, and they're probably right on that. What did they have to say?
You wonder whether they would be doing a bit of a public, I don't know, profession of support of the fans' views, because that was what Sergio Perez said to me. It's too complicated, the fans don't like it, and we like to listen to the fans, unlike the bosses, as it were. So a bit of showmanship there. Interesting who wasn't there, wasn't it? No Lewis Hamilton, neither of the Red Bull drivers either, and we know Red Bull are roughly in favour of this, aren't we? Christian Horner, I think, has been one of those behind it, so maybe they were under something of a 3-line whip there.
Yeah, I thought the Red Bull guys might be in engineering, but then we saw them coming out of dinner, didn't we? Yeah. So I don't think they were in engineering, and I don't think Lewis Hamilton was needed in engineering, although it still looks good for that Ferrari. Or if he was, then Nico Rosberg. It didn't apply to Nico Rosberg because he was in there.
They're not all in the GPDA, are they? the drivers, and it was effectively a GPDA.
Well, sort of. Ricardo is, but then would Alex Wirtz not have been there if it was a GPDA meeting? I don't know. I'm not so sure. I think he's got other things to do.
Yeah.
But anyway, carry on.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm sure other things we'll discuss. Felipe Massa, it was nice to see. It was a bit of a throwback. It was a bit like those scenes we saw in the Senna movie, wasn't it? Yeah. Where we had those images of the drivers making their points so emphatically. You know, you could see Romain Grosjean gesticulating, the senior guys up at the top, all being taken extremely seriously. Sebastian Vettel, some of the others, Hulkenberg as well. It was nice it was fascinating to see the inner workings of a sport so few times in elite sport. Do you see anything like that?
And the conclusion from the drivers was that we are not in favour. We believe the fans are not in favour, and we want everybody to think again about this. Does that apply to the compromise solution, do we think, as well? Because I thought that compromise wasn't too bad. You run Q1 and Q2 amongst to these new slightly odd regulations, these sort of musical chairs. But then you leave Q3 as it is.
Yeah, that's where the focus is, the public focus really, isn't it? It's the pole shootout. And it might spice up the early rounds, which can be a little bit dull because we more or less know who's safe and who isn't.
No, that's a good point you make, because actually if you don't apply this new musical chairs thing to the top 10, then it's not going to spice anything up in the top 10, and so why bother with the first?
Well, that's the confusing part, isn't it, really?
Okay, all right, we've got the Haas F1 car from the front, which looks slightly like a McLaren when you're looking at it on track. I don't know what it will look like on telly. Let's talk about the head protection, shall we, Craig, that we've seen Ferrari bring early on today. And before we talk about exactly what it is and how it might help, as Nico Rosberg joins us on the medium tyre. What do you make of the surprise element that it all came out? Normally, we get wind of this, don't we? Of things coming out via our sources in other teams or via the Italian press who are very close to Ferrari. And, you know, Ferrari leaks more than a broken fridge, doesn't it? I mean, but we didn't get any sort of idea that this was coming out.
Well, I think you were deducing from this that Ferrari have perhaps unilaterally brought it out with any schedule that the FIA or others had devised, and the way your mind works, are you constructing this as some kind of diversionary tactic from their lack of performance on track? No. Am I putting words in your mouth?
No, because their performance hasn't been that bad. All right, they've had some reliability problems, but they would have had to build this up. But I thought two things interesting. You know, first of all, they put their own logo, the Claro logo, on the front of it, and then quickly changed it. Did you notice? To the version that appeared in the media centre, which was shown off to our journalists, with an FIA road safety sticker on the front. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, it looked quite ugly, let's be honest. And a lot of people have commented on that. Martin Brundle's had some choice words to describe the way it detracts from the good looks of a Formula 1 car. But as we were discussing earlier today, there's that terrible roll call of wonderful individuals lost in open cockpit racing over recent years, and in your view, a high proportion of them might have been saved had something like that been on the cars.
Yeah, it does seem to be, as you say, a high proportion, and even if we can save some horrible injuries and some lives, then it is worth all the aesthetic bother that it might cause. I don't think, from what I could see, it seemed like Kimi Räikkönen would have been able, if there was a fire or if it was to actually get out without it being detached from the front and springing back, which was good. And if it was upside down, that's the big question mark. I'm not sure you'd be able to get upside down because you've got this bar in the way where you'd normally go. And we have seen upside down accidents, haven't we? Cars rolling, Gutierrez, of Force India.
Yeah. Funny, the first person I spoke to about it today was Jos Verstappen, who had the fire in his car. And that's one of the arguments against the aircraft-style fighter plane closed cockpit, isn't it? That you'd quickly fill up potentially with carbon monoxide and there'd be problems getting out and that kind of thing. He was hit by a stone as well. Yeah, it just improves your chances, I suppose, of getting away with something like that.
Yeah, I mean, we went through, you know, Maria de Villota would probably have helped. Henry Surtees would probably have helped. Felipe Massa would maybe have helped. Jules Bianchi, don't know, maybe not. And Justin Wilson, maybe, hopefully, probably would have helped. Yeah, this was only, just to reiterate, I know we've been talking about it all today, but this was only a carbon fiber. It was a dummy, it was a mock-up. The real version will be structural. This version was not. The real version will be steel, steel piping, at least we think. So we've quite heavy, very heavy. This version was not. This was just carbon fiber. This was non-structural, and this wouldn't have absorbed the impact that a steel structure that it will be in 2017. Let's not forget, this is next year we're talking about, isn't it? So this was just a mock-up that Ferrari were trying for visibility, to test visibility.
World Motorsport Council on Friday, but I don't think they'll rubber stamp it there. But I'd imagine you'd want unanimity with the teams anyway, introducing something like this. So I don't think it won't need to go through the strategy group and commission. I think they'll want everyone's voice in accord when they introduce this.
Yeah, Kimi Räikkönen said it wasn't too bad. He said it was okay. Wasn't it? That was the word he used. Ferrari sort of said it was, yeah, he sort of said it wasn't too bad, but the quote is okay. What do we mean? That could mean anything. He could have said it with a, well, it was okay. Or he could have said, yeah, it was okay.
He can drive with his eyes closed anyway, can't he? He's that experienced, so maybe the visibility isn't such a big deal. They're going, that's good to see them getting a few more laps in. Haas, having had 2 full night shifts to fix various issues.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's just talk about finally Fernando Alonso in this section, as we are here at this this little section where he had his massive accident this time last year. And okay, Eric Boulier said, told us yesterday that we have delivered everything we said we would to Fernando Alonso, and yet we don't really know where they are. Midfield, I think, is optimistic. Do you think he'll stay? He'll stay, but do you think he'll be happy?
Yeah. Well.
Oh, is that an ultra soft? That was an ultra soft on that Ferrari, wasn't it?
Yes. Well, they've tried it already, haven't they? That's Kimi getting his chance at it. Vettel had it on day one, I think. Yeah. What's his options? Taking a year out, I suppose, takes him out the reckoning. If another seat becomes available, they probably won't enjoy it. Where are they going to be? The lower end of the points, maybe? I mean, there's various interpretations correcting guessed fuel levels and so on that place them as maybe the 5th best car, or something like that.
Yeah, which would mean the lower end of the points.
Yeah, exactly. So, and maybe they can improve over the course of the season, but it just looks so difficult, doesn't it, with